My name is Martin Geiger. Grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia. Went to art school in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. And then ever since I've been living in Stanton, Virginia, and painting and working there. I guess there are two main ways that I go about that. If maybe I'm in the studio and I'm like, I want to start something, but I don't quite know what. I guess one thing I do is I have a practice of sort of wandering, sketching. I refer to it as exploring, and maybe it's a little bit like what a photographer does, but I just kind of wander around places until something just feels right. Like mostly, I think at this point, what I do when I say like, all right, what am I going to find? What's the next piece? What am I interested in now? The other main way I'll sort of gain energy, I think, is just by looking at other people's work, getting really excited. And that can oftentimes help me to sort of filter focus or remind me what maybe I've originally was interested in with painting, or just inspire me to do something that I wouldn't necessarily think of doing on my own. Even before school, I remember I looked at a couple paintings online somewhere, and I saw that they were sort of doing a kind of bending fisheye perspective, panorama type of thing, where they would sort of bend perspective. And that always made sense to me because I think linear perspective in general always made sense to me. I certainly picked that up very quickly when I was in art school, and I got interested in it very quickly. And so that might be one thing that jumped out at me very early on. I think a lot of it is just stuff that I take so much for granted, you know. But I guess one thing is that it always seemed like potentially like an accessible career, just like any other. It wasn't. I didn't have the sort of starving artist fear exactly, just because I'd seen my parents clearly making as careers work. I found it generally very helpful. Me and my parents share a lot with our artistic practice, so I'm not sure if there's a ton of downside for me. It may be if I wanted to branch out into different work, that might make it more difficult, but for the most part, it was almost like having an art school just at home. Well, at minimum, it definitely forces me to get reinvigorated about certain things that I don't necessarily do on my own. Because oftentimes when you're teaching art, there's always this little component of having to sort of sell a particular technique or approach to people, because they've usually, if you're taking art classes, at this point you've probably done something else before or had like other art classes from different folks. And so there is always this little bit of pressure you have to apply to people. It's just not something I have to do with myself. Like I don't have to convince myself that I'm into the things I'm into. But when I'm then convincing other people to sort of like focus more on like maybe what I'm trying to communicate in the class, that usually gets me more excited too, because I just by proxy, I guess. I do have a practice of, if I really don't like a painting, I will paint something totally different on top of it. So it's like recycling the surface a little bit. So I'll sand off paintings oftentimes and then just do something else that I want to do. And so I guess usually it's not involving throwing away, but certainly erasing and retrying. Like that happens very often. With the paintings, I almost always have at least one particular hook area that is maybe the main focus for me, or the thing that pulls my interest, or something I want to explore. And that could be various things. It could be an object, or it could just maybe be the particular atmosphere in a place, or just like the weirdness of a particular shape or something. But yeah, I've actually sometimes struggled with completing paintings because I'll oftentimes sort of narrow. I'll understand what the hook is. I'll get the hook, and then like the rest of the painting I'll just have to work a little bit more doggedly on it to bring it up there. But yeah, almost always there's a particular hook. It's just I think it changes painting to painting. I think there is a particular kind of strangeness to looking that I think me and my parents share, but I certainly feel of I'm constantly discovering just kind of like surprisingly either strange or engaging moments that are kind of unexpected. And so maybe if there was something that I wanted to communicate to people is just sort of maybe just to notice a little more the unexpectedness of looking at stuff or your own attention or something along those lines. Just like next time you're waiting in line for something, maybe that's something you could in everyone's way can kind of think about more. And hopefully, certainly if you're looking at my paintings, I hope that's a takeaway, but even just for people going about their lives, I think that's just I consider it a fact that like the truth is stranger than fiction oftentimes, and I think that's oftentimes missed or underrated.